earlier this summer meet tonight on the debate stage for the first time in Philadelphia, in the same city where the Constitution was written 235 years ago. Tonight's debate is at the National Constitution Center, hosted by ABC and simulcasted here on C-SPAN. Before the debate begins tonight, we, of course, want to hear from all of you. What do you want to hear from these candidates? Here's how you can join the conversation in the next hour. If you are supporting the vice president, dial in at 202-748-8920. If you support the former president, your line tonight is 202-748-8921. If you are supporting another candidate, a different one, dial in at 202-748-8922. If you are undecided, we want to hear from you at 202-748-8923. You can text us, all of you, at 202-748-8903. Include your first name, city, and state. You can also join us on X with the handle at C-SPAN or on Facebook.com/C-SPAN. Before we get to your calls, joining us from Philadelphia tonight is Axios's national politics reporter, Sophia Kai, here to preview tonight's debate. Sophia Kai, you are at the Media Filing Center, which is also going to be where the spin room is tonight. Describe the scene there.
Concentrate fire on the target. Enemy battleship sunk.
Yeah, so it's a large space. There's hundreds of seats set up for reporters from around the world who have come to Philadelphia to cover the debate. And, you know, along the side is a spin room where candidates and their surrogates and teams will come after the debate to speak to the press and really spin us on what they want the message to be. So this is really going to be the hub of where the debate is, aside from the actual debate, which starts at 9.
How many people are there at the Philadelphia Convention Center tonight?
You know, there's hundreds now. There's probably going to be hundreds, if not 1,000 people. I mean, just reporters, there's hundreds and hundreds of seats set up, you know, a single seat for a single reporter.
And as you said, we'll also hear from surrogates from these campaigns. What are some names of people that we should expect to see, possibly even before the debate begins, and then after, as you said, to spin the media on tonight's debate?
Yeah, so I just walked by California Governor Newsom, who's here for Kamala Harris. And previously I spoke to Byron Donalds, a congressman from Florida, as well as Matt Gaetz, who is also here. I mean, each candidate has about a dozen surrogates from both sides, and they range from swing state governors to members of Congress, to, you know, the vice presidents who will, candidates who will also be here to speak to the press.
Outside of the Philadelphia Convention Center, what's it like in that city ahead of tonight's debate? For the first time, these two candidates meeting each other on stage.
Yeah, so Center City, large portions of it are blocked off for the debate. I spoke to some business owners who've told their employees to work from home. Just about an hour ago, I walked past an intersection where local residents have gathered to wait for Harris to hopefully walk out so they could catch a glimpse of her. And then, you know, just outside, about 2 blocks, happening about 30 minutes ago, is a pro-Palestine protest. You know, probably hundreds of people protesting on Market Street, chanting "Free, Free Palestine," right under the billboards where the Harris campaign is advertising.
Yeah, talk about the billboards that you've seen for the candidates in Philadelphia.
So far, I've only seen Harris billboards. They've been everything ranging from being pro-Harris to highlighting Project 2025 and attaching that to Trump, to a billboard about sizes of pretzels, a larger pretzel for Kamala Harris, a smaller piece of a pretzel for Donald Trump. Most of what I have seen has come from the Harris camp.
How have the candidates prepared for tonight's debate?
I think both camps are taking it very seriously. There's more on the line for Kamala Harris because, she's just entered this race. A lot of Americans don't know her just yet and don't know where she stands on the issues. And so I think she has more to prove. For that reason, she started preparing weeks and weeks in advance. Even before the DNC convention, she did a mock debate at Howard University. She's done more of these in the weeks since, and she's been watching previous Trump debates to sort of study and learn his behavior. Trump, on the other hand, says that he's not doing very much debate prep. He says that his prep is simply conducting interviews, talking to voters. But, the reality is he has lots of calls on his own with his allies, talking about policy. With him, it's more about putting him in the right mindset. His aides want to see him show up more focused, able to talk about policy and show a more personable side instead of, other times he's shown up like at NABJ where he's been a little more angry, less focused and chaotic.
Has the campaign for the former president talked about preparing him for debating a female candidate, something he hasn't done since 2016 when he ran against Hillary Clinton? Will he take a different approach tonight because of that dynamic?
I think that's the elephant in the room, but I don't think you'll see him directly mention Harris's gender or race, or at least that's the hope of his aides. Their approach has been, in some ways to highlight implicitly those differences. And that's an obvious difference that's noticeable to American voters. But, it's 2024, and I think the Trump camp realizes that he can no longer run just on those racist or gendered remarks and attacks.
Finally, what are you listening for tonight? What do you think our viewers should be listening for?
Which is best for weight loss, almond milk or oat milk?
Neither. This is a protein drink. You've got almond butter. Almonds have a peel that's a lectin-containing food. You've got pea protein. Oops, peas are one of the worst combinations of lectin-containing foods. And you've got, what else? Cinnamon. Oh, thank goodness. There's something good in here after all. Stay away from this. Read the label.
You probably notice there's a lot of alternatives to milk, often plant-based, but beware. Just because it came from a plant doesn't mean it's good for you. Oat milk is just plain bad for you. The protein in oats acts exactly like gluten. Look, my daughter is a horsewoman, and she tells me that the only purpose of eating oats is to fatten horses. Oats have no place in the human diet. Here's the problem with almond milk. Most almond milk is made from ground up almonds, and the skin of almonds has a nasty lectin that will actually hurt your health and cause holes in your gut. So please ditch the almond milk. Cashews are actually part of the poison ivy family. So if you want to swallow poison ivy milk, have yourself a big, tall, cold glass of cashew milk. A lot of people don't think of coconuts as a nut, but coconut milk is really good for you. But if you're looking for a protein-rich milk to drink in the morning, to add to your coffee or in your morning shake, these nut milks will not give you the protein boost your body needs to feel healthier and look leaner. See, our bodies are nearly 20% protein. Protein is crucial for building muscles and bones. So eating protein in the morning provides the body the materials it needs to function all day long. Protein also keeps you full, boosting metabolism and calorie burning. So it's a fantastic way to promote healthy weight. The only way you'll be able to enjoy the incredible slimming and toning benefits of protein is if you eat the type of protein that matches your personal protein profile. That's why I created this simple quiz that'll determine which profile fits you best and allow you to finally experience the amazing things protein can do to your body. It was only after I learned my own protein profile that I was able to choose the right protein for my body.
Answer just 6 simple questions to become a protein pro. You won't be asked for your email or anything else for that matter. We've kept the quiz short, simple, and free.
You probably know Vistaprint for business cards.
Yep.
But did you know we also print these? And those. And that. And definitely this. Okay, that's engraved, where we print with lasers. At Vistaprint, we print your brand on everything so your customers can notice you, remember you, and fall in love with you. Like, really fall in love with you. At Vistaprint, if you need it, we print it, with 25% off for new customers at Vistaprint.com.
I think aside from the noise, viewers should really look for policy, listen to how they talk about issues that will affect your day-to-day lives. Ignore the noise and the personal attacks. All of that comes with politics. But, what's really important, what could be new, is how Harris talks about the issues, how Trump talks about the issues, and talks about how they'll improve the economy, as well as improve issues around immigration and the border.
Sophia Kai, national politics reporter with Axios. You can find her reporting if you go to axios.com. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
And CNN reported earlier that the vice president, in preparation for tonight's debate, spoke with Hillary Clinton about debating the former president back in 2016, what it was like for her. MSNBC, the Maddow blog, also reporting similar that the phone call was made between the vice president and the former candidate, Democratic candidate in 2016. And they report that they spoke recently and repeatedly. Now, again, tonight's debate by ABC, hosted by ABC, starts at 9 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll be simulcasting that debate here on C-SPAN. And ahead of that, we want to know from you what you want to hear from the candidates tonight. If you are supporting the vice president, your line 202-748-8920. If you're supporting the former president, 202-748-8921. If you have another candidate, 202-748-8922. And if you're undecided, 202-748-8923. Let's go to Shonda, who's in Dayton, Ohio, Republican. Shonda, what do you want these candidates to talk about tonight?
I don't really know what to say about that. I just want to let out Trump that I believe in him. I didn't used to, and everything they've done, it just shows everything he said he would. Look at the immigration, it's sad, and we blame Harris treason for the country.
All right, that was a call from Ohio. We'll go to Angela in Lynchburg, Virginia, Democratic caller. Hi, Angela.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much for accepting my call. I want to see Harris go out there and be presidential. I'm originally from New Jersey, and I know Trump and his lies, what he did for Atlantic City. Nobody wanted to talk about, and even when I was in New Jersey, they swept that under the rug, how he lied to his creditors, filed bankruptcy, and left Atlantic City in a disarray, and he walked away scot-free. He's been lying ever since. He's been in the White House, and New Jerseyans know, if you know, you know, but he's been bad for the country. I'm so totally disappointed in what he's done, especially with COVID. So coming out with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, they've done better for the country. And I know moving forward, she will be the one that will take it to the next level.
All right.
America needs this.
Angela, you think an effective strategy for her is to call him a liar repeatedly tonight?
Yes, because the simple fact of the matter is when he was in office, the press said nothing. They wanted to fact check, but they never called him out until the last part of his presidency. He's lying, he's lying, he's lying, he's lying. CNN has a reporter, Daniel Dale, that made his job, his career on reporting lies from Donald Trump. But that was because the media never said he's lying from COVID on back.
Okay. And Angela, for our viewers, there are multiple websites that you can go to that are fact checking tonight's debate, and you yourself can go and check for yourself. Did they tell the truth? There's PolitiFact. There's multiple websites. New York Times, Washington Post. They do fact checking of tonight's debate. For the rules tonight, let's go through them. For ABC's has laid out, and that both parties have accepted these rules. The debate will run 90 minutes. The microphones will be muted, except for when the candidate who's speaking, when it's their turn. There are no props or pre-written notes allowed. The candidates will be provided a pen, pad of paper, and a bottle of water. There'll be 2 commercial breaks. They will have podiums that look exactly alike. No opening statements by the candidates. And the order of closing statements and positions were determined by a coin flip. Former President Donald Trump won the coin toss and chose to select the order of statements. He will offer the last closing statement. And the vice president chose to stand at the right podium position on the screen, and no studio audience. So very similar to that first debate back in June between former president and then the Democratic candidate for president, President Biden. Tonight's moderators from ABC, David Muir, who has joined ABC in 2003. He's the anchor of World News Tonight, co-anchor of 2020, went to Ithaca College, graduated in 1995. His co-moderator is Lindsay Davis, joined ABC in 2007. She's the anchor of ABC News Live Prime. 2 Emmy Award wins and graduated from the University of Virginia in 1999. They will be asking the questions tonight. What answers do you want to hear from these candidates? Carrie in South Windsor, Connecticut, Republican.
It doesn't look like much now, but it will. When I see that empty lot, I see the beginning of hope and community. Building affordable housing in Seattle usually can take 6 years or more. Because of the partnership with Amazon, people will be moving in less than 2 years. Having a home is a key. It opens the door to everything. See what I did there? Key, door.
These mushrooms make you feel better. Like a lot better. These mushrooms make you feel better by keeping you calm and helping you focus. They keep you stress-free, but sharp enough to get things done. These mushrooms help reduce bloat and improve your digestion, so you can trust your gut instead of worrying about it. These mushrooms make you feel better. They boost your energy so you can embrace the day and help ease the aches and pains so you can get up and do it again tomorrow. So to recap, these mushrooms keep you healthy and energized, help your gut feel better and sharpen your focus while remaining calm. Oh, by the way, they taste good too. Someone should make a coffee out of this stuff. Rise. Feel better.
Well, first of all, I hope that there is a difference in the tone and civility between the two of them, and there's no ad hominem attacks, and that not only how things will be done, but when they will be done, aside from a macro view of what should be done. So more practical than ideological ideas based upon who they are as candidates. I really feel that the past record of Kamala Harris speaks volumes about her record, not her personality, but her record, and that the comparison compared to the achievements of former President Trump while he was in office on many different levels will ultimately prove to be very effective in him winning.
So, Carrie, you want your candidate to stick to policy tonight.
Absolutely.
And do you think he did that during the first debate when he squared off against current President Joe Biden?
Well, I think he went back and forth. He's only human, but I think the fact is that not only what you want to accomplish, but how you will accomplish it and when. So we, as voters, have an indication of what we can expect for the first term.
Okay. What are his vulnerabilities tonight, Carrie, do you think?
I think his temper and his persona, if he's able to rile him, if you will, and he loses composure, it could be a different candidate than we see. But I also think if he sticks to the record of Kamala Harris factually for the past year she's been there and has virtually accomplished very little, especially as our borders are. And your first role is by Constitution to protect the country. And let's face it, we have open borders, and it's not good for any of us. And at some point, we will it will be brought to bear what's been happening here the past 3.5 years.
Okay. Gregory in Chicago, Democratic caller.
Yes, how you doing?
Hi, Gregory.
Look, I think that this is a misfit. Trump do not like himself. He don't like his kids. He don't love the country. Kamala Harris has not done a lot, but I think she stands for everything that she put out in front of us. We are fighting a war. We're fighting another country. And I think that with Trump, the Ku Klux Klan would come out even worse if he's in office. I think that we would have to bear arms. And that's a shame.
So, Gregory, what do you want to hear from the vice president then tonight on the debate stage?
I want to hear. Well, I heard everything that she stands for. She stands for rights. She stands for people. She stands for people that's having abortions, even if they've been raped, sodomized by their own family.
Okay, and Gregory, what kind of style, what kind of debate style should she present? What about her tone? What do you think she should do?
Her tone is mild-mannered, and I think it should stay there. Don't let Donald Trump get you heated, bothered. I think that God is on her side, and I think that God is on all of our side. But I think that she will be in office, and I pray that that would happen.
All right, Gregory's thoughts there in Illinois. Here joining us this evening to talk about debate style and strategy is Julia Azaria, who is a political science professor at Marquette University. Julia Azaria, let's talk about debate style, and beginning with the former president. Broadly, how would you describe his debate style?
Well, I think the two words that come to mind are confident and confrontational. I think he's, particularly in 2016, wasn't afraid to kind of talk about his opponent's record. He wasn't afraid to be very confrontational. But also, I think what really came out in the most recent debate with the current president, former candidate Joe Biden, was that Trump is really able to deliver lines in a sort of confident and simple way, even when some of those lines are being fact-checked and are, in fact, at odds with the truth of the facts.
Let's talk about tonight's debate and the fact that this is the first time he's going up against a female candidate since he ran against Hillary Clinton in 2016. CNN reporting, MSNBC reporting that the vice president, has reached out repeatedly to Hillary Clinton to talk about debating the former president. Let's go back to 2016. Here's the moment from the second debate in 2016 where Donald Trump pressed the former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton on her handling of sensitive emails while serving as the nation's top diplomat.
I am going to instruct my Attorney General to get a special prosecutor to look into your situation, because there has never been so many lies, so much deception. There has never been anything like it. And we're going to have a special prosecutor. When I speak, I go out and speak. The people of this country are furious. In my opinion, the people that have been long-term workers at the FBI are furious. There has never been anything like this, where emails and you get a subpoena, and after getting the subpoena, you delete 33,000 emails. And then you acid wash them or bleach them, as you would say, a very expensive process. So we're going to get a special prosecutor, and we're going to look into it, because you know what? People have been, their lives have been destroyed for doing one fifth of what you've done. And it's a disgrace. And honestly, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
This is the reason why I've canceled my doorbell camera subscription.
This brand new subscription-free mini Wi-Fi camera provides more security features than traditional doorbell systems without ever having to pay for expensive installation or monthly fees, making typical doorbell cameras totally outdated. It's called VistaFocus and was created by former employees of a doorbell company based in Santa Monica, California. Their innovation completely revolutionized the home security industry, already providing huge savings to delighted homeowners, totaling thousands of dollars. So, major doorbell camera companies are doing their best to resist the change. After years of working as technicians for a doorbell camera company in Santa Monica, Evan and Justin learned that homeowners needed an advanced yet affordable subscription-free surveillance solution. They realized that traditional doorbell cameras were outdated and too expensive. That's when Evan and Justin decided to take action. Blessed with years of technical experience and an honest desire to give back to the community, they developed a unique plug-and-play mini Wi-Fi camera that provides superior security and convenience. When their former company offered $2.7 million for the production rights, Evan and Justin declined the offer. It was then that they realized the impact his invention could have. A group of investors joined them in his mission to provide affordable home security. They perfected the device and readied it for mass production. It's the most cost-effective way to upgrade your home security system. Unlike traditional doorbell cameras that are fixed and limited in their range, VistaFocus offers incredible security benefits. It records at higher resolutions and boasts features such as enhanced LED night vision, wide 150-degree viewing angle, remote live feed, two-way audio communication, full HD live video, and more. Best of all, you have complete control over these features right from your smartphone or computer. Whether you're a qualified electrician or a housewife with no prior knowledge of electrical items, setting up VistaFocus is a breeze requiring just 4 simple steps. First, download the app, then scan the QR code with your cell phone to establish a connection to your Wi-Fi. VistaFocus comes with a magnetized base that sticks to any surface, making it easy to hide. Stick it to walls, fridges, garages, or even carry it with you on the go. No cables or batteries required, and you're all set. In less than a minute, you can monitor your surroundings from your cell phone or computer. Best of all, it saves you hundreds of dollars yearly compared to traditional security systems. VistaFocus has already shipped over 1 million units since its release. But major doorbell camera companies are still trying to resist the change. They have already restricted its availability in retail stores, forcing to sell it exclusively online. Now they're trying to take that away too, and it looks like they could succeed. The good news is Evan's company is extending a massive sale on VistaFocus before it establishes itself as the new standard in home security. But this has sent demand through the roof, so this amazing offer won't last long. Click the link below to buy VistaFocus from the official website. The founders are so confident in their product that they are offering a 30-day money-back guarantee with no questions asked. With the need for better home security at an all-time high, you have to hurry. Click the link to get yours with a 50% discount now.
Julia Azari, what would you say? How does this reflect the former president's debate style?
I think this really does illustrate my point about him being quite confrontational, and in this case, not afraid to be pretty maybe personal is not the right word but to be really direct and get in his opponent's face and say you'll be in jail. I think one of the kind of key takeaway points from that is that it fits in clearly with the broader campaign strategy of trying to rile up populist anger. I think this is one of the most important things to think about with debate style is that it doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in the broader context of the campaign, and it happens in terms of what candidates are trying to portray about themselves and their opponents, what kinds of messages are trying to send to the electorate about what's important, and how the electorate is receiving those messages. And I think that's really where Trump kind of highlighted two key things that we still remember from that 2016 campaign. And one is the anger and the populist frustration among Trump's supporters in the way that they were thinking about politics, not just as policy disagreement, but as something to really be worked up about. And on the other hand, that's also very well remembered among Trump's political opponents as a real kind of line crossed in a political debate to talk about jailing a political opponent.
We heard from a viewer earlier that, and a supporter of the former president, that he hopes his candidate sticks to policy tonight. I want to show our viewers from the debate in June when he was debating the current president, Joe Biden, at that CNN debate, when he was talking about his economic policy.
You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. The tax cut spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. The country was going like never before. And we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great.
Professor Azari, there's been reporting that the former president's campaign staff wants him to do what he did in June tonight. That is, stick to policy. Why is that effective?
Well, I think
watch what turmeric does to your dog's body.
Turmeric is amazing for alleviating joint discomfort in old dogs. But you have to be careful. There are certain spices you may love that can give your dog nausea, organ issues, and sadly, even be lethal. Never feed your dog these. Toxic dog spice number 1, cocoa powder. Most people have heard that chocolate can be harmful to dogs. Actually, a dog would need to eat a lot of milk chocolate to get sick, but just a little cocoa powder can cause vomiting, seizures, and even death. Keep cocoa powder away from dogs. Toxic dog spice number 2, pumpkin pie spice. Pumpkin pie spice contains nutmeg, cloves, and allspice, and all 3 of these are toxic to dogs. So especially around Thanksgiving, a lot of people might feed their dogs some leftovers. Definitely skip the pumpkin pie. Toxic dog spice number 3, cayenne. Okay, cayenne pepper isn't technically toxic, but if a dog gets a big whiff of cayenne, it's going to burn their eyes, their nose, their throat, and if they eat it, it can cause all kinds of stomach irritation. So if you're making a big batch of chili, keep the lids tight on all your spices. But here's the craziest part of all. These 3 spices are dangerous to dogs, but there's a few spices that are the exact opposite. Feeding your dog what I call canine super herbs can have a major impact on their health. There's herbs that can help with itching, with joints, with energy. There's herbs that can help improve motion sickness. There's herbs to help promote calm moods, and even herbs that support organ health so your dog can live a happy, healthy life. Okay, let's talk about which herbs you need to add to your dog's bowl to help them look and feel fantastic at any age. Why do dogs lick their paws or eat grass? Why do dogs get itchy skin? Why do dogs get mushy poops and achy joints? Most importantly, why do so many dogs die before their time? There's a lot of reasons, but in my experience, almost every aspect of a dog's health can be influenced by two things: adding the right foods to their diet and avoiding the wrong ones. My name's Katherine Heigl. You may know me from TV shows like Firefly Lane or Grey's Anatomy or movies like 27 Dresses. But what you might not know is the thing I'm most passionate about is dogs. And this video is my complete guide to canine superfoods that can help virtually any dog improve their mobility, their odors, their poops, their skin, their breath, their dental health, and just look and feel years younger. And you can do all of this at home in your own kitchen. My mom, Nancy, and I started the Jason Debus Heigl Foundation 12 years ago. And since then, we've helped place over 16,000 dogs into loving homes. But after working with so many dogs for so many years, I have to say, we're seeing more health issues these days than ever before. For some breeds like golden retrievers, they've seen their lifespan cut from up to 17 years in the 1970s to as low as 10 years today. What happened? After consulting with some of the world's top veterinarians and animal health experts, I feel we can look at one thing in particular: food. The problem is most dog foods, even premium foods, contain really gross stuff. Like if it says meat byproducts in the ingredients, that might not even be meat. That's code for basically carcasses, beaks, feathers, not good stuff. Another problem is the way some companies cook dog food. Kibble and canned foods are often cooked at really high temperatures. And when that happens, you get these things called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. AGEs can be terrible for health. These nasty little guys can cause inflammation, which can lead to flatulence, discomfort in their joints, especially in older dogs, allergies, mushy poop that's hard to pick up, itching, and paw chewing. But worst of all, AGEs are a carcinogen. And the crazy thing is, these dog food companies don't even have to list AGEs on the label because it's not technically an ingredient. AGEs can form from high heat cooking. So what's the solution? How do you feed your dog something you know isn't just safe, but can actually make them look and feel and act younger? Well, you want three things: super healthy ingredients, cooked with very low heat from a source you trust. The problem is, I couldn't find any dog food that actually met these three things. So I decided to do something about it. I put together an amazing team of people who are experts in pet nutrition, and we created Superfood Complete. Superfood Complete is the perfect food for any dog you want to look, feel, and act healthier than they have in years. And it contains not just 5 or 6 or 7, but a whopping 33 of the healthiest proteins, vegetables, superfoods, adaptogens, omegas, and prebiotics on the planet. And it's air dried. That means cooked low and slow, no high heat. This is the way to help keep our dogs healthy. Let me tell you, over the years, I've had so many dogs, but I have never seen my dogs wolf down a food like this. All 6 of them just devoured it. One person told me, "Katherine, she's like a brand new dog." I start with premium protein-packed beef to help give dogs a strong, healthy body. In addition to beef, we also include nutrient-packed beef liver and beef heart. When your dog eats liver, it's actually good for their liver. When they eat beef heart, it helps support their heart health. I don't have to tell you that organ health is a major factor in your dog's longevity. So getting these cuts into this recipe was a must for me. There's salmon, which is great for supporting your dog's heart, blood pressure, cholesterol, and can help them keep a healthy weight. Plus, this has superfoods you won't find in almost any other dog food, like flaxseed, which can help support your dog's achy joints, their skin, and even their gut. We've got sweet potatoes for healthy eyesight, pumpkin, which can help dogs with occasional diarrhea or constipation, chia seeds, one of the highest antioxidant foods a dog can eat. And if you want serious health benefits, we've included both turmeric and lion's mane mushrooms, 2 of the healthiest things I believe a dog can eat, period. Plus, it's loaded with practically every vitamin, mineral, and nutrient. Literally anything you can think of to support your dog's health, this food was designed to help. Okay, now let's talk about how you can give your dog Superfood Complete and see these amazing changes for yourself. I told my team from the beginning, Badlands Ranch is going to make the highest quality dog food, and we're not cutting any corners. The good news was, when it comes to quality, my team hit a home run. We found trusted sources of amazing beef, fantastic salmon, wholesome veggies, and tons of my favorite superfoods. The problem was the price they were quoting me, $60 a bag, which isn't bad. And actually, I would have gladly paid that to know I was giving my dogs the very best nutrition. But here's the thing. We learned that by selling directly to consumers, we could not only get the price lower, we could also get 50% more food in the bag. So if you order right now through this presentation, you can get our big 24-ounce bag of Superfood Complete for just $39.95. That's an instant savings of over $20 a bag. But that's only for people who order through this video presentation. So when this window closes, Superfood Complete is only available on our website for the regular price of $59.95. Now, I know this is still more expensive than cheaper foods like kibble, especially if you have big dogs, but I want everyone to be able to get these superfoods into their dog's diet. So there's a great way to do that, and that's using Superfood Complete as a topper for your dog's existing food. So if you've got a big dog, you can order a few bags of Superfood Complete and add it on top of your dog's current food. That way, you're at least getting all these superfoods, proteins, omegas, prebiotics, adaptogens, and other super healthy foods into their diet every day. I definitely recommend you give your dog entire Superfood Complete meals as often as possible, but using it as a topper is a big improvement on kibble or other cooked foods and can provide a dramatic improvement. By the way, we came up with even bigger discounts on larger orders. You can save up to $120 when you order our 3 or 6 bag options, which is great for stocking up so your dog never misses out on great nutrition. And if you know you're committed to your dog's health for the long haul, we also created a subscribe and save option, which means you can get Superfood Complete delivered straight to your door once a month. You'll also get your order fulfilled first, even when inventory is running low, no matter how many other people are trying to order. Plus, you get an additional 5% off every order. There's no commitment or anything, and you can cancel at any time. It's just a great way to make sure your dog never has to go back to low quality food again. In my experience, proper nutrition is one of the most powerful tools you have to help your dog stay healthy and happy. That's why we created Superfood Complete, to help your dog be healthy so its body works right the way it's supposed to. And I am so sure you'll see these changes. Every bag of Superfood Complete comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee. That means you can feed your dog every single bit. And if your dog doesn't love it, if you don't see all the same things our dogs have, the mobility, the glowing coat, great digestion, just a healthier dog, then send it back for a full refund of the purchase price. Even if it's just the empty bags. That's how confident I am this is going to be a life changer for your dogs. And here's maybe the most special part of all. By supporting us, you're helping us sponsor our 501c3 charity, the Jason Deebus Heigl Foundation, to fight abuse and animal cruelty across America and the world. That includes helping fund Heigl Hounds of Hope, our program to rescue abused animals from high-kill shelters. Click the Learn More link below right now, and I'm going to get you and your dog started on this incredible journey too. And when you start seeing more and more changes, I want you to email me a picture of your pup. One of my favorite things is seeing dogs' happy, smiling faces and knowing we're making a real difference in this world. Thank you so much for being such a fantastic guardian for your dog and for all dogs. You've got a big heart, and your furry friend knows how much you love them. They know their entire health depends on you, and they appreciate it. So do I. To your dog's health, I'm Katherine Heigl.
I am a primary care physician. I'm frustrated, and it is just not what I signed up for. I'm tired of our sick care model. I'm not choosing not to participate. I got in this to help people get well, not harm them, protect them, lead them, teach them. That's not what I'm seeing in the healthcare system. I'm choosing to take a different approach as a doctor for the sake of people that are relying on us to teach them how to be healthy. Someone tell me why. Why don't doctors tell you to take something as simple as magnesium instead of a stool softener, knowing that the stool softener dehydrates your bowels? Why don't doctors tell you to take D3 in the winter? Because you can't get it from the sun. It's gone, depending on where you live in the country. And it radically improves the immune system and impacts your sleep. Why don't doctors tell you to change your diet? You know, when you're having heartburn or indigestion, your body's literally revolting against you. Instead of giving you something like Prilosec or Nexium, knowing that studies show that they're linked to kidney failures and osteoporosis. Why don't doctors tell you to focus on herbs or certain foods to heal? Why don't doctors tell you to lower the toxic chemicals that are inside of your house, knowing that it's 100 times more toxic in your house than outside? That might be causing you your constant headaches or your allergies. All the fragrances and chemicals and the toxic buildup that gets into our cells are what creates these things. Why are you informed by your doctor that if you eat something as simple as a grapefruit every day, that it'll support lowering your blood pressure naturally and you don't need or might not need a medication? That's why a person that's taking a blood pressure drug can't take anything with grapefruit in it. The same thing applies with a blood thinner telling people they can't eat green food. Why don't you just eat the green food? Why doesn't your doctor tell you to take something like an activated charcoal because it just soaks up toxins for like your headaches, or maybe you're bloated or you have skin problems, telling you that your gut is backed up, or you have, some kind of food poisoning, because activated charcoal bonds those and removes them from the body. It's real simple. Why don't doctors tell you to use herbs or herbal tea?
There's a couple ways of thinking about this. One is this kind of assumption, and honestly, I think as a political scientist, the evidence on this is a little bit mixed. There's this idea that people are turned off when it's too negative, that people are turned off when it's too personal. It's not clear that that is actually true. It'd be great if it were, but there is some evidence. People like to be rallied to their team. I think what's going on there a bit is that Trump's campaign, his handlers are really wanting him to kind of frame the debate in terms of what people remember about his presidency that was good. And there were many things about the political environment that were quite calm and tranquil and good for people prior to the pandemic. That's a big asterisk, but there's public opinion that suggests that that's some of what people remember about Trump was strong economy, pretty solid solid years in the United States. And obviously not everybody remembers it that way, but I think that's what they want to clue into and kind of stick to those policies, stick to that record, think about how to contrast it with Biden's record, rather than getting into some of the more personal attacks, rather than getting into some of the kind of areas where Trump might go down some venues that are harder to explain. It doesn't seem like some of the attacks on Vice President Harris's identity are landing very well. So it's a fine line between rallying your team, being a little funny, reminding people why they don't like the other side, and being overly personal, going into attacks that maybe don't map onto what voters are interested in or thinking about.
Moving to the vice president, how would you describe her debate style?
I would also kind of describe her style as a little bit confrontational, I think in a different way, but you can tell in the way she debates that she's a former attorney. You can tell that she's comfortable in that context, that she's not somebody who is trying to reconcile, trying to be jovial, trying to be calm. And I'm sort of thinking about it in contrast with the way that Obama debated, the way that Biden debates. I think it's different. I think her comfort in a kind of context where she has an opponent, she's a clear opponent, she has a job she's trying to get done. I think that really comes out. She's not afraid to express an opinion that might really rile the person she's debating against. That's, I think that all comes through.
Let's start with her 2020 debate, her first national debate, and that's when she squared off against the former president's vice president, Mike Pence. The moment that people point to is when the vice president was interrupting her. Let's watch.
Senator Harris.
Well, I mean, I thought we saw enough of it in last week's debate, but I think this is supposed to be a debate based on fact and truth. And the truth and the fact is Joe Biden has been very clear. He will not raise taxes on anybody who makes less than $400,000
He said he's
a
going to
year.
repeal the Trump tax cuts.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Well,
I'm speaking.
be important if you said the truth. Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week that he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. That was tax cuts that gave the average working family $2,000 in a tax break every single year. Senator,
that is
that's the math.
absolutely not true. That
Is he
tax
only
bill-
is he only going to repeal part of the Trump tax cuts?
If you don't mind letting me finish, we can then
Please.
have a conversation, okay?
Please.
Okay. Joe Biden will not raise taxes on anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year. He has been very clear about that. Joe Biden will not end fracking. He has been very clear about that.
Professor Ozari, with a smile on her face, she said, I'm speaking to the vice president. And it was noted in Semaphor's reporting today that she said, I'm speaking 6 times in 90 minutes during that debate. Was it effective?
I mean, people are still talking about it. And certainly, I think, when we have these debates, not dissimilar to what we just saw with the other candidate, it's not the things that they say, and particularly these confrontational styles, not going to work for everybody. So this is not a style that's intended necessarily to win over skeptics, but it was such an interesting moment because every professional woman who's been in a professional meeting kind of knows that feeling of being interrupted, and she just leaned into it. She just owned it. And what this sort of suggests to me, and what I've been sort of thinking about since we've had so few examples of a woman in this debate context on the presidential stage, is that I think this is a little bit part of her really taking steps, using the debate context to try and define the meaning of being a woman, of being a person of color. She uses the debate. I don't know if it's always effective. Again, it doesn't always land with everybody. And the vice presidential debate is a tricky one because I think it kind of tends to happen, and then people like you and me talk about it. And I remember talking about it with my students the day after, but then it sort of fades from view for the most part. I do think the fact that we are still talking about this, though, is very much about gender, and is very much her effort to frame what her gender in this context, in this historic context, means.
Let's go to 2020 and the primary cycle of 2020, and this is one of the moments between in the second Democratic primary debate between Kamala Harris and then candidate Joe Biden on this stage. Take a listen.
I do not believe you are a racist. And I agree with you when you commit yourself to the importance of finding common ground. But I also believe, and it's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of two United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. You also worked with them to oppose busing. And, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me. So I will tell you that on this subject, it cannot be an intellectual debate among Democrats. We have to take it seriously. We have to act swiftly.
Professor Azari, what was she doing there?
Which is best for weight loss, almond milk or oat milk?
Neither. This is a protein drink. You've got almond butter. Almonds have a peel that's a lectin-containing food. You've got pea protein. Oops, peas are one of the worst combinations of lectin-containing foods. And you've got, what else? Cinnamon. Oh, thank goodness. There's something good in here after all. Stay away from this. Read the label.
You probably notice there's a lot of alternatives to milk, often plant-based, but beware. Just because it came from a plant doesn't mean it's good for you. Oat milk is just plain bad for you. The protein in oats acts exactly like gluten. Look, my daughter is a horsewoman, and she tells me that the only purpose of eating oats is to fatten horses. Oats have no place in the human diet. Here's the problem with almond milk. Most almond milk is made from ground up almonds, and the skin of almonds has a nasty lectin that will actually hurt your health and cause holes in your gut. So please ditch the almond milk. Cashews are actually part of the poison ivy family. So if you want to swallow poison ivy milk, have yourself a big, tall, cold glass of cashew milk. A lot of people don't think of coconuts as a nut, but coconut milk is really good for you. But if you're looking for a protein-rich milk to drink in the morning, to add to your coffee or in your morning shake, these nut milks will not give you the protein boost your body needs to feel healthier and look leaner. See, our bodies are nearly 20% protein. Protein is crucial for building muscles and bones. So eating protein in the morning provides the body the materials it needs to function all day long. Protein also keeps you full, boosting metabolism and calorie burning. So it's a fantastic way to promote healthy weight. The only way you'll be able to enjoy the incredible slimming and toning benefits of protein is if you eat the type of protein that matches your personal protein profile. That's why I created this simple quiz that'll determine which profile fits you best and allow you to finally experience the amazing things protein can do to your body. It was only after I learned my own protein profile that I was able to choose the right protein for my body. Answer just 6 simple questions to become a protein pro. You won't be asked for your email or anything else for that matter. We've kept the quiz short, simple, and free.
Drinking warm water before bed balances blood sugar levels and reverses type 2. Thousands of people are apparently regaining control of their blood sugar every night as they sleep by adding one unusual ingredient to a glass of warm water before bed. If you're type 2 or pre-diabetic, struggling to lose weight, stressing over constant monitoring, or just sick of feeling tired all the time, then pay close attention, because a recent study out of a top German university suggests that high blood sugar levels may have less to do with a lack of insulin, family history, or poor eating habits than first thought. They found that the real root cause appears to be a buildup of a sticky proteinous mucus, blocking the area where sugars should drain out of the kidneys, which over time forces more and more to collect up in the bloodstream, resulting in uncontrollable weight gain, frequent energy crashes, and ultimately the dreaded type 2 diagnosis. But most importantly, these same researchers revealed how we can break down this sticky buildup just by following a simple bedtime routine, which they claim quickly unclogs and clears out the sugar drain, restoring normal function once and for all. It's been an exciting breakthrough, with thousands of men and women now reporting of suddenly being able to stabilize their blood sugar, ditch their medications, and shed pounds.
Well, this is a really great question. This is one of the iconic moments of that very crowded and very busy 2020 primary season. And I mean, mainly what she was doing was what we expect candidates to do in that setting, which is attack the front runner. And I think this was an interesting moment in the Democratic Party's history because Biden had started to emerge even by this early point as a candidate of the African American voting bloc within the Democratic Party. He was popular with African American voters as someone who had worked with that community for a long time and served as Obama's vice president. And Harris, I think, maybe was expecting to have a little more inroads with those voters. And so perhaps this was her attempt to do that. Perhaps it's her attempt to distinguish herself in a crowded Democratic field. That's a really tough thing to do. And it's not entirely clear that it was effective. I think it was important. It's something that we still talk about. I think everything that she said was factually true about her life and about what Biden had said about some of those senators that he served with in the 1970s. And so I think it's certainly an important issue to bring up. I think as a piece of debate rhetoric in a primary context, I don't know that it was terribly effective. I don't know that it did bring a lot of support to her.
So, Professor Azari, does she do that tonight? Does she tell her story tonight? Does she need to?
That's a good question. I've heard a lot about this in the pre-debate commentary about the voters don't know who Kamala Harris is, and there are a lot of different ways we could interpret that question. We could interpret that question in terms of her background or her character or what she wants to say about herself. She did some of that in the DNC, and I expect she'll do some tonight. But debates do tend to be more focused on policy matters, and so I expect to hear much more about how she will be both similar and different from the Biden administration. I expect to hear a lot more about change and continuity across those administrations. I expect to really hear her try to highlight her opponent. She's been, I think, very consistent in the way that she's tried to highlight what Trump will do looking forward, what his presidency was like that she wants to remind her voters of. And I think that to the best of her ability, depending on the questions and what happens, that's probably what she'll try to do. She hasn't really talked overtly a lot about her specific demographic identity. It's been kind of part of the background, and I expect that will be true again, but I do kind of expect that since we've now seen in these two clips that this is in a lot of ways her effort to talk about what her identity means. I would not be surprised if she tries to do that this time around as well.
Julia Azari, political science professor at Marquette University. Thank you for previewing tonight's debate.
Thanks for having me.
Back to calls. We'll go to Barbara in Miami, Florida. Republican Barbara, what do you want to hear from these candidates? Barbara in Miami, are you with us? Hi, Barbara, it's your turn. What do you want to hear from the candidates tonight? All right, Barbara, I'm going to move on. Robbie in Converse, Texas. Hi, Robbie.
Hello.
Robbie, who do you support in this presidential election?
He won't even be on the stage. His name is Chase Oliver, Libertarian candidate.
Okay, we had him on the Washington Journal here on C-SPAN.
Good for y'all. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And so will you watch tonight?
Absolutely. I'll be driving Uber, but I'll be listening while I'm driving.
All right.
Give me a second. The things I want to hear from those candidates. You know what I'd really love? Like you guys, you put Chase Oliver on your Washington Post. I would like to hear the candidates address the issue of why, like Chase Oliver and Jill Stein, are not on that debate stage, and further, and that should be a no-brainer. I'd love to hear their thoughts on that. Of course, they won't do that, but also I'd like to hear them. And this one is really important. And I think because they don't hear the other opinions, I'd love to hear them come up with alternative ideas to like taxing the rich or tariffing the foreigners, like creating a sovereign wealth fund. I hate to give the two-party system a good advice, but I'd love to hear them come up with a sovereign wealth system that could rival, some of the other countries in the world that are gaining a lot of power, a lot of money, finances to be able to do things that the two-party system would like to do in this country, like free health care and free college, and to not use the wealth of the wealthy or the foreigners to try to accomplish those goals.
All right, Robbie. We also had Jill Stein on the Washington Journal the same day that we had the Libertarian candidate. Check it out. Go to cspan.org. Beverly in Woodstock, Virginia, Democratic caller. Beverly?
Hi there.
Hi. What do you want to hear from the Vice President tonight?
I would like to hear the Vice President speak respectfully to former Trump supporters or ones that are on the edge. I live in a very rural red part of Virginia, and I have friends who voted for Trump, but they don't want to vote for him. But we need her to speak in such a way that is not going to give them reasons to not vote for Harris. I would like her to be respectful and look towards something that will help move them towards her, or at least prevent them from dismissing her as a candidate that's a viable option.
All right, Beverly, what message would work to do that, do you think?
Respect. And that
just
you are
respect,
welcome.
just a tone of voice, not a policy issue?
I mean, the policy issues are tricky out here, but I think it's really more about feeling respected, not alienated, not humiliated, the opposite of the basket of deplorables. Because once that hit, I heard from my friends over and over again, that was it. And they would never consider voting for her. And so I think Harris has to be really careful in a community like mine. To not trip over an insult or an unintended issue that's going to alienate people, because there are former Trump voters. They're very quiet. They won't put out yard signs. They won't really talk about it. I've had offline, in-person conversations, and they're willing to not vote for Trump, but they have to not be offended by Harris. And so I really hope she can thread that needle and do a beautiful job of leaving the door open for them with graciousness and welcome.
All right. Beverly in Virginia, Democratic caller there. John, Lakewood, New Jersey, Republican. John.
Yes, hello.
Hi, John. What do you want to hear from the former president tonight?
I'd actually like to hear from the vice president.
Okay.
I'd like to hear her speaking about the border. I think a lot of people are wondering about that, like where's she been, in the last few years. And I'd also like to hear her, answering up for her, for foreign policy, especially in Israel, the conflict, and to hear more what she's going to do about that.
Okay.
Drinking coffee every day didn't work for me, but I couldn't figure out why until I went from 184 to 123. I was doing everything right. I just needed a little tweak to one thing. So this is the simple method that has helped me drop close to 61 pounds since September. I kept it to myself for a while to see if it worked. But when I started losing up to 11 pounds week after week, it caused a stir among my family and friends. People ask me, how did you lose so much weight? And here's what I tell them. This is how I peed out fat in just weeks. This special coffee loophole took me from 184 to 123 in no time. Let me explain. You've probably heard that once you have kids, your body will never be the same. You'll have to accept the extra flab around your waist and arms, the muffin top that spills over your jeans, and the saggy skin that hangs from your belly. But what if I told you that's not true at all? What if I told you that there is a special coffee loophole that can help melt away the stubborn fat in weeks without starving yourself or spending hours at the gym? Sounds too good to be true, right? That's what I thought too, until I met my old college roommate. She looked amazing. She had 4 kids, but she was as slim and fit as she was in her 20s. I asked her what her secret was, and she told me about this coffee loophole that changed her life. She said it was a simple coffee drink that she made every morning, using ingredients that she found at her local grocery store. She said it electrified her metabolism back to teenage levels and flushed out the toxins from her body. She said it was so easy to do, and it only took 10 seconds a day. She said she went from 174 to 118 in weeks and kept it off for good. I was skeptical, but I decided to give it a try. And boy, am I glad I did. Within weeks, I went from 184 to 123 just like that. I couldn't believe it. I felt like a new person. I could fit into my old jeans and dresses again. I had more energy and confidence than ever before. And the best part is everything I ate was melting right off. But don't take my word for it. My sister Emily tried it too, and she had even better results. She was sad after her husband divorced her because he said she got too big and tubby. But thanks to this coffee loophole, she went from 169 to 118 in weeks. Now she's dating a handsome guy who works in finance, and he treats her like a queen. She's happier than ever, and you can be too. If you want to discover this special coffee loophole that can help lose unwanted flab, tap the Watch Now button below and watch this short video that shows you everything you need to know. But hurry, this video won't be up for long. The weight loss industry doesn't want you to know about this loophole because it will put them out of business. So watch it now before it's too late. Trust me, you won't regret it. This coffee loophole is the best thing that ever happened to me and Emily. And it can be for you too. Tap the Watch Now button below and get ready to transform your body and your life.
This is the reason why I've canceled my doorbell camera subscription.
This brand new subscription-free mini Wi-Fi camera provides more security features than traditional doorbell systems without ever having to pay for expensive installation or monthly fees, making typical doorbell cameras totally outdated. It's called OrbiCam and was created by former employees of a doorbell company based in Santa Monica, California. Their innovation completely revolutionized the home security industry, already providing huge savings to delighted homeowners, totaling thousands of dollars. So, major doorbell camera companies are doing their best to resist the change. After years of working as technicians for a doorbell camera company in Santa Monica, Evan and Justin learned that homeowners needed an advanced yet affordable subscription-free surveillance solution. They realized that traditional doorbell cameras were outdated and too expensive. That's when Evan and Justin decided to take action. Blessed with years of technical experience and an honest desire to give back to the community, they developed a unique plug-and-play mini Wi-Fi camera that provides superior security and convenience. When their former company offered $2.7 million for the production rights, Evan and Justin declined the offer. It was then that they realized the impact his invention could have. A group of investors joined them in his mission to provide affordable home security. They perfected the device and readied it for mass production. It's the most cost-effective way to upgrade your home security system. Unlike traditional doorbell cameras that are fixed and limited in their range, OrbiCam offers incredible security benefits. It records at higher resolutions and boasts features such as enhanced LED night vision, wide 150-degree viewing angle, remote live feed, two-way audio communication, full HD live video, and more. Best of all, you have complete control over these features right from your smartphone or computer. Whether you're a qualified electrician or a housewife with no prior knowledge of electrical items, setting up OrbiCam is a breeze requiring just 4 simple steps. First, download the app, then scan the QR code with your cell phone to establish a connection to your Wi-Fi. OrbiCam comes with a magnetized base that sticks to any surface, making it easy to hide. Stick it to walls, fridges, garages, or even carry it with you on the go. No cables or batteries required, and you're all set. In less than a minute, you can monitor your surroundings from your cell phone or computer. Best of all, it saves you hundreds of dollars yearly compared to traditional security systems. OrbiCam has already shipped over 1 million units since its release. But major doorbell camera companies are still trying to resist the change. They have already restricted its availability in retail stores, forcing to sell it exclusively online. Now they're trying to take that away too, and it looks like they could succeed. The good news is Evan's company is extending a massive sale on OrbiCam before it establishes itself as the new standard in home security. But this has sent demand through the roof, so this amazing offer won't last long. Click the link below to buy OrbiCam from the official website. The founders are so confident in their product that they are offering a 30-day money-back guarantee with no questions asked. With the need for better home security at an all-time high, you have to hurry. Click the link to get yours with a 50% discount now.
All right, we will be simulcasting ABC's debate here on C-SPAN networks, and you can watch here when it begins at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, if you're on the go, you can watch on our free video mobile app, C-SPAN Now, and you can also on our website, cspan.org. You'll be able to find the debate after it's over tonight as well. When it concludes, we're going to go back to the phone lines and have a conversation with all of you and get your reaction to tonight's debate as well. We're expecting it to last about 90 minutes, so around 10:40 p.m. Eastern Time is when we expect the debate to wrap. They're going to have 2 commercial breaks, and that's when we will pick up here with resume our conversation with all of you tonight and get your reaction. Joyce in Asbury Park, New Jersey, Democratic caller. Hi, Joyce.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, go ahead. And what do you want to hear from the candidates tonight?
Well, I really don't care what Trump says because I would never, ever vote for him. So I really don't care because all he does is lie anyway. But I would like for the VP to speak more about her policies, since there's so many people out there stating that she doesn't have any policies. She has a lot of policies. She has a great agenda that she wants to put forth to the country. So that's what I would like to hear. But I would also like to address one caller when they said that she should be respectful to his supporters. I totally disagree because his supporters are very disrespectful and they're rude, and some of them you just can't talk to. So she's a very respectful person anyway. So I just think that call was just unnecessary and really didn't make any sense. But basically, that's all I have to say.
Okay, Joyce. Kevin in Hampton, Virginia, Republican. Kevin, our cameras are inside the Philadelphia Convention Center tonight. That is where all the media has gathered ahead of tonight's debate. And that's where we're going to hear from supporters of these candidates. Some already talking to the media ahead of tonight's debate. There'll be more in the so-called spin room after the debate. Kevin, what do you want to hear tonight?
I'd like to hear some honesty, some civility, and America really needs healing right now. So I'm hoping that we're able to come together and just really move past this dark period in our history.
All right, Kevin in Virginia, Republican. Thorne in California, Democratic caller. Let's hear from you next.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well. What do you want to hear tonight during this debate?
Well, I don't think that we should have the standard where Kamala has to be perfect. And it's primetime TV. I'm just excited to see her take down Trump and have it be just a really great prosecution of all that he hasn't achieved in his life.
You call it primetime TV. What do you mean?
I mean, I'm waiting for the next season of House of the Dragon, and this is the next best thing.
Okay. Well, take a look at New York Times headline by their media reporter today, predicting the debate ratings. Super Bowl? Nah. Seinfeld finale? Maybe. And this is what he writes about tonight's debate. The record for a presidential debate is 84 million viewers for the first meeting in 2016 between Hillary Clinton and Mr. Trump. So Tuesday's bout between Ms. Harris and Mr. Trump, which will be simulcast on nearly every major network, could theoretically draw an audience akin to that of the final episodes of Seinfeld, 76.3 million, and Cheers, which was 80 million. Mr. Trump's presence alone suggests a large audience will tune in. He has participated in 3 of the 4 most watched general election debates since 1976. The Hollywood Reporter, with the ratings numbers for the June debate of this election cycle, when it was the former president against President Joe Biden, the ratings of that debate drew 51 million viewers, way below the 2020 numbers, which saw closer to around 73 million in 2020. So a big audience expected for tonight's ABC debate, and we will be simulcasting here on the C-SPAN networks. Glenn in Union, Kentucky, Republican. Glenn.
Hello.
Hi, Glenn.
I wanted to call because I am in support of Trump, and I am been in support of Trump since the very first time he ran in 2016. And the reason why we originally supported him, we can't forget that. He was the outsider. He was not a politician. He was brought to the country as a president because he was there to change things. He was brought to the country to drain the swamp and to get rid of corruption and to make America great again. And I don't see what Democrats are so angry about making great again, make America great again. You know, they're so against it for some reason. I don't get that.
All right. Glenn there in Union, Kentucky. C-SPAN caught up with people on the streets about tonight's debate and what they wanted to hear from the candidates. Take a look at some of the answers we got.
Discover the heartbeat of democracy with C-SPAN Voices 2024 as we engage voters ahead of the first debate between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump, asking, what issue would you like for them to address and why?
Hello, my name is Bregan Flannery. I'm from Sampson, Alabama. My biggest issue this election season is probably the bias in the media. I feel like we don't have adequate coverage of both parties, and, you know, we just have a very leftist media.
Oh, my top issue is women's rights, reproductive rights. I have a wife. I have 2 daughters and 2 sons. And the most important thing for me is to make sure that my daughters are safe, my wife is safe, and every other woman is safe, because I'm a big believer in not just equal rights, but every woman has a choice.
I guess my top issue is the preservation of democracy and freedom. And it seems like our freedoms are being eroded. We're here in the National Mall and World War II Museum is right next door. A lot of people paid a really heavy price for that freedom. And that's what I think we need to focus on.
When I think about who I'm voting for, really will center around healthcare and women's rights, our rights to choose, our rights to be in charge of our own body, and really just big picture, better access to healthcare for everyone, equal slate, equal playing field for all.
I would say my top issue for the U.S. right now would probably be immigration and illegals. We can kind of close up the border, but keep it open to people immigrating legally. That would be fine. But yeah, until that gets corrected, I think there's gonna be a lot more other issues that are gonna stem from that. So hopefully get that corrected here soon.
C-SPAN's Voices 2024. Be a part of the conversation.
It doesn't look like much now, but it will. When I see that empty lot, I see the beginning of hope and community. Building affordable housing in Seattle usually can take 6 years or more. Because of the partnership with Amazon, people will be moving in less than 2 years. Having a home is a key. It opens the door to everything. See what I did there? Key, door.
And back to your calls here as we await the first the presidential debate. It's the second of this election cycle. It's the first between Vice President Harris and the former President Trump, and that is going to get underway in less than 15 minutes. ABC is the host of that. We are simulcasting it here on C-SPAN, and we want to know what you want to hear from these two candidates tonight. Marilyn in Norfolk, Virginia, an independent. Marilyn, let's hear from you.
I would like to hear Donald Trump, since he admitted that he did lose the election last week. I would like to hear him apologize to all U.S. citizens. I would like to hear him apologize for ruining people's lives and all types of things, losing their homes, losing their jobs, sitting in jail because of his big lie. Secondly, I would like to hear him admit, since Kamala Harris is being accused of having bad policies during the last administration and doing all these bad things, I would like Mr. Trump to tell us how much of those things in his administration he should congratulated and thanked all the things he did during Donald Trump's administration. And Donald Trump should stop taking credit for all the things that Mike Pence did. And the last thing I'd like to hear is I'd like to hear Vice President Harris say, you know, Joe Biden and I have done a lot during this administration, during these almost 4 years. We didn't get everything right, but we did the things that we didn't get right, we're working on, but we should be congratulated and people should appreciate the things and the good things that we did get done.
Okay, Marilyn.
And that's what I'd like to hear tonight.
All right, Chris in Brunswick, Georgia, Republican. Hey, Chris, just hang with us for a minute. Let's go into the spin room. California Governor Gavin Newsom is talking to reporters.
Not only visited right after October 7th, Israel, but also brought a field hospital into Gaza. I don't know, there's another state that did this. Breaks my heart. What happened on October 7th? We want these hostages home. We want this war to end. So does Kamala Harris, so does Tim Walz, so does the Biden administration, that every hour of every day are trying to get this war to an end. Donald Trump, you got to give me a break. What's his plan? I guess it's another one of these secret plans. It's
But the genocide has been from Biden's administration.
What would this two-state solution look like?
Well, look, I'm not going to get into the nuances.
Okay, then I'll ask you a different question. What would you like to see from the new president on day one regarding the border?
Well, I think we have a proposal, $650 million for a border wall, 1,500 new border agents, 4,300 new asylum agents, 100 new judges. Literally, detailed plan that was put out, a bipartisan plan that President Biden endorsed, as well as Vice President Harris. Not only did she endorse it, she got a standing ovation at the DNC, embracing it and saying she will promote it and she will sign that bipartisan deal. A deal Donald Trump does not support. He's unserious. He doesn't want a border deal. He wants a border problem. And I say this with an expertise that few have. I have the largest land port in the Western Hemisphere in the state of California. And I've had to put 394 National Guard men and women on the border. And it's shameful. It's shameful that he doesn't have the backup Border Patrol and doesn't support 1,500 new border agents and the investments to improve the quality of our border security. And that says, again, everything about Donald Trump and his hypocrisy.
What do you think is Vice President Harris's biggest strength tonight at this debate?
Well, she's fierce. She's tough. I've seen this for decades. And I also think she's underestimated in these sessions, particularly, dare I say, with men. I've been in the rooms. I haven't studied game film. I've been up and close. I've known Kamala Harris a decade before we were both in elected office. And I've seen her show up at these debates at a different level. She's disciplined. She is not going to get off her game. I think it's inconceivable. It's an impossible task for Donald Trump not to get off his game. She will get under his skin. And by the way, her name is Kamala Harris, not Kamala. And when Kamala Harris shows up, I think she's going to show up at the handshake. And I think at that handshake, you're going to see something very different from the outset of this debate. If I'm Donald Trump, I would look out. They've never met. He's about to experience something many of us have experienced and seen in the American people, and world leaders will see. A toughness, a character, integrity, someone who's disciplined. And
Governor there, Gavin Newsom, talking to reporters. You can see he's swarmed by the media in the Media Filing Center at the Philadelphia Convention Hall there in the city. Hundreds of reporters there ahead of tonight's debate. We expect that surrogate supporters for the former president will be there as well. Senator Tom Cotton was talking to reporters before. There's members of Congress on both sides of the aisle. They're supporting their candidates and talking to the media. Chris in Georgia, Republican. Hey, Chris, thanks for hanging on the line.
Yes, ma'am. In the primaries, isn't that when we decide who is going to be the presidential nominee?
And so your point is tonight, Chris?
Kamala Harris wasn't even on the docket. How can she be a presidential nominee?
Do you think that your candidate, the former president, should talk about that tonight?
Yes, definitely.
All right. Ahead of tonight, there are, of course, new polling out every week in this race as we enter the last weeks of this election cycle. New York Times, with their latest polling, the headline is released by Siena College, a national poll that found former President Trump leading the vice president 48% to 47% among likely voters. That caller from Georgia, and we were just showing you from the swing state of Georgia, New York Times polling, it is neck and neck there. A 1-point lead for Kamala Harris against Donald Trump in Georgia. We'll show you some other swing states if we can here before tonight's debate getting underway in just minutes. Susan in New Orleans, New Orleans and Louisiana, Democratic caller. Susan.
Do you hear that? The pure panic of a cyber attack. The endless alerts of component failure and power loss. Can you hear it? Neither can we.
Good evening. Thank you. As we wait for the hurricane to hit this great state of Louisiana, we're also waiting for Kamala Harris to do the same to Donald Trump. But my question is this, and not only to you, but to others, why are the news outlets not fact-checking everything Donald Trump says real time? I'm really upset about every debate that I see that Donald Trump participates in. He's never fact-checked, including how is it possible that you have January 6th that occurred and he wants to pardon every single person that has attacked our Capitol?
Susan, have you ever gone to the Washington Post fact check, PolitiFact? Have you ever checked out those websites? Because they do.
Absolutely. But I want it real time. I want it tonight while he's lying to the American public about gun regulations and being pro-life. You know, pro-life also means protecting our children. Pro-life is having Sandy Hook children that would be graduating right now. And these evangelicals that are so hell-bent on making Donald Trump be the second coming of Christ, for God's sake, they need to look at the marriages he's had. They need to look at the mistresses he's had, the children out of wedlock he's had, and yet they still think of him as the second coming of Christ. I don't know what's wrong with the Republican Party. I used to respect George Bush and Reagan. I voted for Reagan. I voted for McCain. What has happened to the Republican Party that they cannot have a spine to stand up to this man? So what I'm hoping to see tonight is that Donald Trump will not only be bastardized by his own party, but he loses big, and Kamala will win.
Okay, Susan there in New Orleans. Now, the path to 270, the Electoral College, it means that these candidates have to win some crucial states. We showed you Georgia being one of them, the New York Times latest poll with Siena College in that state. Take a look at Pennsylvania, where the candidates are tonight for tonight's debate. Here, the vice president again leading by just 1 point. This is a neck and neck. This is a tie in the swing state of Pennsylvania. Carter in Valley City, North Dakota, an independent. Carter, what do you want to hear tonight?
Love to hear from this debate is honestly an attack against logical fallacies. Let's look at Kamala Harris. Let's look for policies, and let's have her take on Donald Trump's ad hominem and honestly, quite frankly, his red herring attacks against Kamala Harris and his own policy to other people's to take off that spotlight. Look at the essence of debate in America and how Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, Joe Biden have taken it away. People are the judges, and they deserve to be convinced of arguments and have constructive critiques and criticism to them. And look who stripped that away. The essence of them, which is honestly disgusting. So I hope that Kamala Harris can get out there and take it head on and be the person who brings back real debate in America.
All right. That's Carter there in North Dakota. Next caller, Tony, comes from Supply, North Carolina, Republican. Tony, before we hear from you, take a look at the New York Times polling out of your state, another battleground state, and it's 48% for the vice president, 47% for the former president, essentially a tie as well in North Carolina. Tony, Republican?
Yes, thank you for taking my call. One of the issues that I have is there is so much personality, and we're Americans, and it really bothers me when you hear as much hatred. It appears to be in people's voices on both sides. I mean, the reason I'm watching the debate this evening, I am a Republican. I do plan to vote for Donald Trump. However, I am watching the debate. I want to hear policy on both sides. I had planned to vote for Jimmy Carter years ago, and when I changed my mind was the night before I voted, when the economic report came out, and it continued to trend down. So, I have not yet totally made up my mind, even though I am a Republican. I'm an American first.
So, Tony,
And
what could the vice president convince you to vote for her? And if so, how?
She could, if she shares policy. All of the stuff that they have been pushing, the liberal agenda, as far as the electric vehicles. I have a brother, and his neighbor has one, and he could fill up his vehicle 4 times a month for what it cost him to charge his vehicle one time. He said his electric bill, his totally electric vehicle, is absolutely bankrupting them. And so pushing for these policies, I want to hear more mainstream policy.
Okay, so Tony, do you believe that New York Times poll that we showed you is accurate? Then, essentially, a tie in your state.
I believe so. There are very red areas and there are very blue areas, and most of the blue areas are the more heavily populated. But I do think North Carolina is up in the air.
Okay.
And that is
Tony, I want to show you and others that it's not just this New York Times poll, Washington Post poll, and this tweeted out by the Washington Post reporter, showing that small changes in their polling model. North Carolina moves from a small lead from the former president to a tie, while Pennsylvania tightens a bit with a few close, high-quality polls. Beyond that, not much movement going into tonight's debate. So there are the swing states and Washington Post polling. We showed you a little bit from the New York Times polling ahead of tonight's debate. Of course, people, the candidates, the voters, the media will all be looking at the polls post-debate as well. Ernest in Georgia, Democratic caller. Ernest, are you with us? Hello. In Georgia? We're listening to you.
Wix gives you the freedom to tell your story with a professional website that reflects who you are and what you have to offer. Customize every element of your website to meet your needs and achieve your goals. Create a unique visual experience that enhances your product and amplifies your message. Expand your website with content that pushes your business forward. Share content that matters to your audience. And present it the way you envision it, from the biggest ideas to the smallest details. Your website, your voice, your platform.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, what do you want to hear from the candidates tonight?
Yeah, I would like to hear how ex-president apologized for January the 6th. Even though he feels that what he did.
All right, I'm going to leave it there. The ABC debate is beginning. We'll take you there now.
Face-to-face meeting ever.
A historic race for president upended just weeks ago. President Biden withdrawing after his last debate. Donald Trump now up against a new opponent.
The candidates separated by the smallest of margins, essentially tied in the polls nationally and in the key battlegrounds, including right here in Pennsylvania, all still very much in play. The ABC News presidential debate starts right now.
This is an ABC News special. The most consequential moment of this campaign, Kamala Harris.
Together, we will chart a new way forward.
Donald Trump.
We will soon be a great nation again.
Face to face. historic. The ABC News presidential debate. Here now, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Good evening, I'm David Muir, and thank you for joining us for tonight's ABC News presidential debate. We want to welcome viewers watching on ABC and around the world tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June. Since then, this race has taken on an entirely new dynamic.
And that brings us to the rules of tonight's debate. 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. No topics or questions have been shared with the campaigns. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions, and this is the clock. That's what they'll be seeing. 2 minutes for rebuttals and 1 minute for follow-ups, clarifications, or responses. Their microphones will only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed. There is no audience here tonight in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting for 2 candidates who have never met.
President Trump won the coin toss. He chose to deliver the final closing statement of the evening. Vice President Harris selected the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
Nice to see you. Have fun.
Thank you.
Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their #1 issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year, because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
The $5 meal deal at McDonald's means you get to pick between a McDouble or a McChicken. Then get a small fry, a small drink, and a 4-piece McNuggets. That's a lot of McDonald's for not a lot of money.
I got money.
Get the $5 meal deal today.
Prices and participation may vary for a limited time only.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation has, which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump, will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse, mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
That's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The vice president brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response. And you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support. And shouldn't trust you.
Vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, When Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came
Well,
to
I
your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50, and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea and how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free, but they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and in asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer
That's
the
problem.
question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question.
you
Would you
could
veto?
do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so, that would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border?
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, will end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well,
All
I've
this,
seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say
clear-
my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
the people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond here.
Did you know that a simple glass of water could be sabotaging your battle against type 2 diabetes? Pay attention. Blood glucose up to 100 is considered normal.
Thank you. Because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people whose were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they? But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier. So let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse
President
me,
Harris,
the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that.
This is the reason why I've canceled my doorbell camera subscription.
This brand new subscription-free mini Wi-Fi camera provides more security features than traditional doorbell systems without ever having to pay for expensive installation or monthly fees, making typical doorbell cameras totally outdated. It's called OrbiCam and was created by former employees of a doorbell company based in Santa Monica, California. Their innovation completely revolutionized the home security industry.
Made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice
to
President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
We got
the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy
President
with a fake
Trump.
Russia investigation
We do have a lot
that
to get.
went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well,
response?
first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please.
This is the reason why I've canceled my doorbell camera subscription.
This brand new subscription-free mini Wi-Fi camera provides more security features than traditional doorbell systems without ever having to pay for expensive installation or monthly fees, making typical doorbell cameras totally outdated. It's called VistaFocus and was created by former employees of a doorbell company based in Santa Monica, California. Their innovation completely revolutionized the home security industry, already providing huge savings to delighted homeowners, totaling thousands of dollars. So, major doorbell camera companies are doing their best to resist the change. After years of working as technicians for a doorbell camera company in Santa Monica, Evan and Justin learned that homeowners needed an advanced yet affordable subscription-free surveillance solution. They realized that traditional doorbell cameras were outdated and too expensive. That's when Evan and Justin decided to take action. Blessed with years of technical experience and an honest desire to give back to the community, they developed a unique plug-and-play mini Wi-Fi camera that provides superior security and convenience. When their former company offered $2.7 million for the production rights, Evan and Justin declined the offer. It was.
Does that sound familiar? She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, She went out and raised money to get him out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead. Fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get
environment
to.
that
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never.
Which is best for weight loss, almond milk or oat milk?
Neither. This is a protein drink. You've got almond butter. Almonds have a peel that's a lectin-containing food. You've got pea protein. Oops, peas are one of the worst combinations of lectin-containing foods. And you've got, what else? Cinnamon. Oh, thank goodness. There's something good in here after all. Stay away from this. Read the label.
You probably notice there's a lot of alternatives to milk, often plant-based, but beware. Just because it came from a plant doesn't mean it's good for you. Oat milk is just plain bad for you. The protein in oats acts exactly like gluten. Look, my daughter is a horsewoman, and she tells me that the only purpose of eating oats is to fatten horses. Oats have no place in the human diet. Here's the problem with almond milk. Most almond milk is made from ground up almonds, and the skin of almonds has a nasty lectin that will actually hurt your health and cause holes in your gut. So please ditch the almond milk. Cashews are actually part of the poison ivy family. So if you want to swallow poison ivy milk, have yourself a big, tall, cold glass of cashew milk. A lot of people don't think of coconuts as a nut, but coconut milk is really good for you.
But if you're looking for a protein-rich milk to drink in the morning, to add to your coffee or in your morning shake, these nut milks will not give you the protein boost your body needs to feel healthier and look leaner.
See, our bodies are nearly 20% protein. Protein is crucial for building muscles and bones. So eating protein in the morning provides the body the materials it needs to function all day long. Protein also keeps you full, boosting metabolism and calorie burning. So it's a fantastic way to promote healthy weight.
The only way you'll be able to enjoy the incredible slimming and toning benefits of protein is if you eat the type of protein that matches your personal protein profile. That's why I created this simple quiz that'll determine which profile fits you best and allow you to finally experience the amazing things protein can do to your body. It was only after I learned my own protein profile that I was able to choose the right protein for my body.
Answer just 6 simple questions to become a protein pro. You won't be asked for your email or anything else for that matter. We've kept the quiz short, simple, and free.
You probably know Vistaprint for business cards.
Yep.
But did you know we also print these? And those. And that. And definitely this. Okay, that's engraved, where we print with lasers. At Vistaprint, we print your brand on everything so your customers can notice you, remember you, and fall in love with you. Like, really fall in love with you. At Vistaprint, if you need it, we print it. With 25% off for new customers at Vistaprint.com.
Ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, "Oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet." That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me
but
just
when
ask
are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the president of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville. That story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate, because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border, because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The president of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Right. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you, because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
that.
You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look.
This is the latest blood sugar, blood pressure, and blood oxygen meter developed by Singapore General Hospital. Just clip it on your finger and measure your blood sugar, blood pressure, and blood oxygen levels in 3 seconds. Given that the current climate affects the physical and mental health of the elderly and children at home, as well as friends with high blood sugar levels, I highly recommend this blood glucose meter. It is 99.9% accurate. In addition, it is very portable and can be easily put into a bag, which is very convenient to use on the go. This is a great invention, as it has been sold in 58 countries. In order to help more people stay healthy, the first 100 orders will enjoy an 80% discount. If you are not satisfied, you can get a refund.
I am a primary care physician. I'm frustrated, and it is just not what I signed up for. I'm tired of our sick care model. I'm not choosing not to participate. I got in this to help people get well, harm them, protect them, lead them, teach them. That's not what I'm seeing in the healthcare system. I'm choosing to take a different approach as a doctor for the sake of people that are relying on us to teach them how to be healthy. Someone tell me why. Why don't doctors tell you to take something as simple as magnesium instead of a stool softener, knowing that the stool softener dehydrates your bowels? Why don't doctors tell you to take D3 in the winter? Because you can't get it from the sun. It's gone, depending on where you live in the country. And it radically improves the immune system and impacts your sleep. Why don't doctors tell you to change your diet? You know, when you're having heartburn or indigestion, your body's literally revolting.
There's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm. Lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them Republican.
No judge looked at it.
And said
they said we didn't have standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart, Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is
I think
up.
we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters, because it is also true far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed, children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president,
This is the reason why I've canceled my doorbell camera subscription.
This brand new subscription-free mini Wi-Fi camera provides more security features than traditional doorbell systems without ever having to pay for expensive installation or monthly fees, making typical doorbell cameras totally outdated. It's called OrbiCam and was